All right. Welcome to the webinar once again. We are about to start the webinar now. Thanks for joining. And today's webinar will be led by Gloria, who is the CEO of First Finance Company. Gloria has significant experience in the industry, and she's here today to share her experience with us and the skills she has developed along the way. I believe those skills will help us all to manage our finances better and help us to create wealth for ourselves and our future generations as well. Thank you for making the time, Gloria, and welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Sule, and thank you to all participants. I'm sure as we move along, we'll have others join us. I'm very, very excited today, especially about the topic that we chose to have a discussion on, and that is how to create wealth and achieve financial independence. I'm sure everybody wants to create wealth. Everybody wants to achieve financial independence. I just want us to imagine a world where you don't have to wake up and go to work because you need money, but rather you work because it's a passion, or probably you work because you just love what you do. So for today, we will look at ways and means by which we can create wealth, and the ultimate goal is for us to achieve financial independence. So I'll kickstart the webinar. Why do we always talk about wealth? Why do we talk about financial independence? Or why is it important that we reach that goal or we achieve that objective in our lives? And I have just put down 3 main reasons why I think that everybody needs to be having discussions on how to create wealth. And if you have joined my previous webinars, you see that this particular slide is always on it because it is the problem that we have identified and we want to find a solution to it. So what is the problem? We have identified that a lot of people are living from paycheck to paycheck. What this means is that people are working hard, but what happens is that they work and then they are paid at the end of the month, or probably they are paid at the end of the week. But they consume everything and then they wait for the next paycheck. And it's like the cycle just continues. I'm sure most of you will agree with me on this. If you agree with me, just give me a thumbs up in the chat column. Secondly, we've also realized that a lot of people are struggling to give the kind of education they would have loved to give to their wards. So what happens is that you talk to people and they tell you that, oh, I would love my child to attend Harvard. I love my child to attend Princeton, but the fees are a lot. I love my child to go to Ashesi, but the fees are a lot. I'm unable to pay. So we are not able to give our children the kind of education we would have loved to give them. And the major reason why this is so is because of issues of finances. You hear a lot of people talk about the fact that school fees are expensive, education is expensive. Then finally, the problem that we have also identified is the fact that a lot of people retire poor, or people retire and they are not able to live the kind of lifestyle they were living when they were working. So how do we ensure that those of us who are having this conversation, we don't have this problem, or we don't find ourselves in this problem going forward? So it is the reason why we have put together a number of this webinar. I think this is the second time I am appearing on the webinar series organized by Dobia, and I think it's such an amazing thing that Sule and the team are doing. So for today, let's look at it. When we say financial independence, what exactly are we talking about? Basically, when we talk of financial independence, it simply refers to or it describes the state of having sufficient personal wealth to live independently without having to work actively for your basic necessities. So when you don't have to go to work because you need money to fund your basic necessities, but because you love what you do, or because you want to have an impact on society or impact on people, then we can say that you have achieved financial independence. So basically, that's what we're talking about. So key things to look out for to see if you have reached that stage of your life. I have three key things. The first thing is when you realize that you are no longer relying on others to pay your bills. So for example, there are people that even before the month ends, they are in difficulties, they are looking for funds. You have to fall on your parents, you have to fall on your kids if your kids are old, or probably fall on family and friends to be able to give you some money in the interim for you to sort out basic necessities. Then secondly, when you have freedom from all debt for personal consumption. So if you don't have to go for that personal loan before you do whatever you want to do, if you don't need to go for that car loan before you buy your car, then we can say that you have achieved financial independence, because what it means is that your cash flows will be adequate to fund those things for you. And finally, where you have freedom from working for income. So if you don't have to get up to work because you need the income, then we can also say that you have achieved financial independence. But we are talking about two things here. We're talking about wealth creation and then financial independence. So let's look at what wealth creation is. Basically, when we talk of wealth, we are talking about abundance of items of economic value, or in other words, the state of controlling them or possessing such items. So we are looking at money, real estate, personal property, amongst others. So wealth creation is your ability to create some of these items of economic value. And anytime we're having a conversation on financial independence, we can't leave out wealth creation, because it's wealth creation that will ultimately lead you to achieve financial independence. So I'm going to share with you some strategies. I've put down about 7 strategies that we can all use in our daily lives in order to achieve financial independence. So I'm just going to go through them. And I believe most of us are workers, either in the formal sector or the informal sector. So it's either you're working for someone or you're a business owner, whatever it is, you still earn income. So the first strategy that I'm going to share with you here is that you need to be tracking your income. And this is very important and very necessary for all of us. So the first step towards financial independence is for you to be aware of where your money is going. I'm sure most of us have heard, or even most of us might have experienced that you take your money, halfway down the month, you look at your account and you ask yourself what you used your money for. I want this to be very interactive. So if you agree with me, just give me a thumbs up if you have ever found yourself in such a situation. If when you receive your salary, along the way, you look at your balances and you're not sure where the money went. Sometimes you ask yourself if something is secretly taking your money out. So the first step towards financial independence is for you to be aware of where your money is going. So in order to do this, you need to start by writing down all your expenses. Thanks so much, Carlos. I don't know if it's the Carlos that I know, but thanks so much, Carlos. So start by writing down all your expenses for the month. Now that you know where your money is going, so once you write all your expenses for the month, you know exactly what and what you use your money for. So once you are able to get all your expenses together, then you will need to look at the things that you have to eliminate. You realize that there are so many unnecessary costs that we put on ourselves. So once you have it down, we will entreat that you start eliminating some of this cost out of your list. And then there are other costs that you cannot totally eliminate, but then you can look at lowering it. And then this is where issues of budgeting comes to play. So you need to set a budget, know your inflows and your outflows, and be able to track where your money is going. And this is very important. And this is the first step towards achieving your freedom so far as, or your independence so far as your finances are concerned. So we are saying that the first strategy is for you to start tracking your income. Don't just take your money and as and when something comes up, you use it to purchase. Plan for it and track exactly where your funds are going. Then secondly, you need to look at living below your means. So we are also saying that you need to try as much as possible not to spend money you don't earn or not to spend money you don't have. So live below your means. And living below your means does not necessarily mean that you will live a life where you will not be happy because you have to forgo a number of things in your life. So there are things that we can look out for in terms of living below your means. So we are talking about when you are coming to spend money, look at first time spending. For example, if you are coming to build a house, I always use this as an example. So if you're coming to buy, if you have a house and you have been asked to build a house the second time, all things being equal, the likelihood that you save money is high. This is because you would have learned from some mistakes that you have probably done in the past. So we are saying that anytime you are doing something for the first time, don't just jump into it. Ask questions, find out from people who have done it before and learn from their mistakes. Don't come back and commit those same mistakes. So anytime you are doing a first time spending, always make your inquiries, and this will help you not to overspend on it. Then we are also saying that you also look at issues of your utilities. There are so many ways that we can save costs so far as our utilities are concerned, starting from the use of electricity to water to so many other amenities. There are so many ways that we can save costs. For example, it's 6 a.m. in the morning, you are driving out and you see so many outside lights still on. I mean, God in his own wisdom has given us the daylight. So once it's around 6 a.m., you need to ensure that you switch off your lights. And then there are so many other ways that you can also save on your utilities. Then we look at impulse buying. Impulse buying, and I think my dear ladies, probably I may also be a culprit sometimes. I mean, sometimes we just can't help it. But let's try as much as possible to budget for whatever we want to buy. So you don't just go, you see something and you're just blown by the wind to just react. And then finally, we are saying that look for alternatives to some of the things that you want to do. So I have, for example, going for a Go TV instead of a DSTV. We all know that DSTV is very expensive. So you can opt for Go TV. And a friend of mine always put it nicely. He says that it's the same CNN anyway. If it's the same CNN, it doesn't really matter whether he's watching it on a DSTV or watching it on a Go TV. But again, when I do some of these presentations, you hear from the gentleman that, well, the EPL is not on Go TV, it's on DSTV. So if I am a fan of football, what do I do? But let's not forget, the matches are not played all through the week. You can have alternatives of watching it at public places in order to save on your cost. Even now, there's a way you can even use your mobile app on your phone to watch some of these things. And what it means is that you only pay as at the time that you're watching, just use a bit of data. So we need to look at some of these alternatives so that we can save costs. So once we are able to save costs, then we will be able to live below our means. And this is where one key strategy that I call financial needs analysis comes to play. So basically, financial needs analysis says that take your time, look through your finances, and carefully apportion the things that you want to do so that you are not found wanting. And also look at areas that you think you can save costs so that all the monies that you are saving will be available for purposes such as investment. And it is important to also say that when we are budgeting, it is important that we budget for our investment. Most people spend, then at the end of the day, they invest what is left. But we are saying that is the other way around. Invest and spend what is left. So my second strategy for you today is to live below your means. Then the third thing that I want to talk about is for you to pay yourself first. And I'm going to pick it from my last statement of saying that you need to be deliberate about investments. So you put your budgets together, you know that this percentage is going into investment. Take it out of your money before you start spending the rest. So we are saying that it is very important for you to set aside a portion of your monthly income towards investment. And we are recommending that if you're on a tight budget, you do 10%. If you're on a manageable budget, you do 15%. And if you're on a very flexible budget, you do 20%. The reason why we have made it very flexible and we don't want to say that it has to be this is because we know the challenges. Every human being is unique. So you know your challenges, you know your finances, so you need to know what percentage you can do at each point in time. But in a worst case scenario, we are saying that at least 10% of what you earn should go into your investment. And I believe strongly that anybody who is very deliberate about this act and invests 10% of their income will definitely retire very, very comfortably. So 10% if you're on a tight budget, 15% if you're on a manageable budget, and 20% if you're on a flexible budget. But if at the end of the day, you take your salary and you're not able to put anything aside or you're not able to pay yourself, then ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid you haven't received salary. You have rather simply become a distribution channel. So money passes through you and then you distribute to so many other things. So learn to pay yourself first before you think of your other expenses. Then we'll look at the fourth strategy, and that is, we are saying that you need to create multiple streams of income. Why is multiple streams of income very important for us? This is because when you talk to people, you hear a lot of them tell you that, the money is not enough. The money is not enough today, it will not be enough tomorrow, and it has never even been enough. So we just need to ensure that it's either you are earning from different sources or you cut down on your costs. These are the only ways that you can be able to save money. So let's look at ways by which we receive income. So generally we have active and passive ways of receiving income. Active meaning you are directly involved in the day-to-day things that generate income for you. The other way is for you to relax and let your money work for you. So we'll look at it. So for the first one, we are looking at making money by being an employee or being employed. And most of us find ourselves within this category. So you work for someone and you get paid at the end of the day or at the end of the week or at the end of the month. If you are in this category, there's nothing wrong with being in this category. Although it is believed that most of the people that find themselves within this category will not be able to achieve financial freedom, I'm here to tell you that it is still possible for you to achieve financial freedom by being an employee. So as I said, there's nothing wrong with being an employee, but rather there's everything wrong with limiting yourself to being just an employee. So you will make money by being an employee. Another way of making money, active income, is by being self-employed. Being self-employed means that you are working for yourself. So you have your own business and you are the one in charge of the business. So most sole proprietors find themselves within this category. But the question is that, will you be able to take that vacation, lock shop and take that vacation and still make money? It looks like wherever you go, the business moves with you. So if you have a funeral that you have to be away, then business will come to a standstill. So what happens to your income then? So again, if you are self-employed, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's everything wrong with limiting yourself to being self-employed. So these are the two active ways. Now let's look at the right-hand side, which is very interesting, the passive way of making income. And it is said that if you are able to have a passive way of making income, then you are on the right track of being financially independent. So if you are making a passive income, then you are a business owner. And we need to understand that there's a difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. Just cast our minds around our environment. We have several business owners, people who don't even need to step a foot in the office or in their shops, but they have their money working for them. So you can make passive income by owning businesses, different businesses, and having people run it for you. You can also earn passive income by a very simple means, and this is by being an investor. And every one of us here today can be an investor, but it is not all of us who can be business owners. But I mean, every one of us can be an investor. So we are saying that there's nothing wrong with being in the active side, because I mean, that is the easiest way that we can get food on our table, but there's everything wrong with limiting ourselves to just that area. In a worst case scenario, be an investor in addition to being an employee, or be an investor in addition to being a self-employed. If you have the business acumen, you can still be a business owner in addition to being an employee. Because I personally, I know several employees who equally have so many other businesses that is generating additional stream of income for them. And we are saying that once you increase your streams of income, then your disposable income become a lot. You are able to save towards a rainy day, or to invest towards a rainy day. So ladies and gentlemen, the fourth point is for us to look at creating multiple streams of income. And it is important that we look towards the passive side of earning income, because we will not forever be strong to be active in our businesses. It is important that we either invest in addition or create other businesses if we have the acumen to do that. Now, we'll look at our fifth strategy, and this is what I call the cost of waiting. The cost of waiting simply is what we all know as procrastination. And it is one of the key reasons why most people are not able to start any investment on their own towards financial freedom. So I put it as the cost of waiting. So I'm saying that it is important that we avoid the cost of waiting. And what is the cost of waiting? In simple terms, I term it as the penalty you need to pay for postponing your investment decisions, in very simple terms. So if you are postponing your investment decision today, know that there's a cost that awaits you in future. And this cost can be very, very, very painful in future. So let's look at it, and I would like you to pay particular attention. If you have a financial calculator, you can punch the numbers as we move along. So the cost of waiting simply is referring to the penalty that you would pay if you decide that you will not invest today, but you rather start the investment in a year, in 5 years, or in 10 years. So let's look at something interesting. So I have 100 Ghana cedi monthly savings at a very conservative interest rate of 15%. And we are saying that we are looking at investing for a period of 40 years. So let's look at someone who has completed school, done with national service, and the person has just received their first appointment. So a 25-year-old lady, 25-year-old young man, you have received your appointment letter and you want to ensure that you put something aside. And we are saying that if you are a young man or a young lady today, you are 25 years and you start investing 100 Ghana cedi every month at a very conservative interest rate of 15% over the next 40 years, your future value would be 3.1 million Ghana cedi. Unbelievable, but it is true. So if you have Excel or you have your financial calculators, you can punch the numbers. And this is because of the effect of compounding. Compounding is what really makes your money to grow for you. So you are 25 years today, you start investing 100 Ghana cedi every month. By the time you are 65 years, you would have accumulated 3.1 million Ghana cedi. Who wouldn't love this? Is this not amazing? But let's look at something interesting. So you are young and you start work, 25, and you all know the struggles we go through in school sometimes. I mean, the midnight candles and all that. So you tell yourself that, you know, Charlie, I have to chill small. I can't just, start putting all my money away. So I want to enjoy a bit. So, it's just 1 year. So I'll do it when I'm 26. So you decide to start investing at the age of 26. What it means is that you are postponing by 1 year. The interesting thing is that for you, 100 Ghana cedi a month over a period of 1 year is just 1,200. So, it's not a big deal. I can forgo 1,200 and start in a year's time. But I'm here to tell you this evening that you are not foregoing 1,200 Ghana cedi, but rather you are foregoing the future value of 1,200 Ghana cedis. And the future value of 1,200 Ghana cedi, ladies and gentlemen, is 430,000 Ghana cedi. Just imagine that. For just postponing your investment decision by 1 year, you are losing 430,000 Ghana cedi. And let's look at another interesting thing. Some people even decide to say that they will wait till 5 years before they start. So if you decide to postpone your investment decision for the next 5 years, know that you are going to forego the future value of the 6,000 that you'll be losing. And that is 1.6 million. These numbers are scary. I would love you to use your financial calculators and your Excel to punch these numbers. Then let's look at the last one, which is so scary. I want to wait and start at age 40. After all, I will retire around 60. I still have 20 more years. So, it's not a big deal. And most people will tell you that life begins at 40. But I'm here to tell you that life does not begin at 40. Life, so far as your finances are concerned, begins the day you take your first paycheck. So if you are postponing your investment decision by the next 15 years, what it means is that you are postponing the future value of the cost amount. So let's look at this. If you start investing at the age of 40, instead of investing at the age of 25, you are foregoing 2.7 million Ghana cedi. And imagine you losing 2.7 million Ghana cedis. But this is the reality that we have. So I'm just here to tell you that you need to stop procrastinating and start now. If you are here and you are above any of the ages that I have mentioned, don't be discouraged. There is still an opportunity for you to start. So we are saying that the best time for you to plant an oak tree probably was 20 years ago, probably was 5 years ago, but the next best time that you can still do it is now. So take that decision today to start investing something towards your future. Now, let's look at another key strategy that will help us. And this is what I term the cost of convenience. The cost of convenience. So I'm saying that we need to be aware of the costs of convenience. Who doesn't like convenience? I'm sure we all love it. Give me again a thumbs up. This time around, I need to see a lot. I want to see a lot more people giving me that thumbs up. So we are saying that beware of the cost of convenience. Convenience gives us comfort, but we are saying that that comfort again comes with some costs that you need to pay. And what are some of these conveniences that I'm talking about? I'm talking about credit card. They are on you. Take that credit card, spend money you don't have. You don't have the money, but you have the ability to spend it. You pay in future. But we are saying that there's a cost to it. Take that personal loan, go and buy that Mercedes. It is comfort, it is convenient, but there is a cost to it. Your child is going to school, go for that school fees loan and pay the child's school fees. It's convenient, but we are saying that there is another way you can do that. You can deliberately put money aside and still be able to do all of these things or all your purchases. So we are saying that beware of the cost of convenience. We are not saying don't go for a credit card. I know several people that use credit card, but you need to understand how credit card works. And I'm sure most of us know, or even if we don't know, I'm telling us today that there's a way you can use your credit card and not even be paying for it, because there's always a window period that you can use and pay back without being charged. So let's ensure that we are not too comfortable with the things around us in terms of convenience, and then we forget ourselves. If we do that, what will happen is that we will continue to pay and pay and pay, and we will never be able to have money to invest, because at the end of the month, what it means is that the credit card will take theirs, the personal loan will take theirs, the school fees will take theirs. So if you are in such a situation, it is very important that you contact a financial advisor to help you on how to restructure your debt so that gradually you come out of debt. Because if you have debt on you or you have a lot of loans on you, there's no way you'll be able to have money for investment. And this will be a detriment to you achieving your financial freedom. So now we will look at the last strategy that I have here, after which we will start looking at where we can invest in Ghana and Africa in general. So the last strategy is for us to collaborate to create wealth. And this is coming from the fact that, you can't do it all alone. There are certain things that you want to do and you can't do it all by yourself. So we are saying that you need that support system for you to be able to create wealth. If you are able to do it all by yourself, that is good, but you need that discipline. How many of us are very disciplined and deliberate about some of these things? So we are saying that you can decide to form investment clubs. So you go to your churches, a number of you in a department in a church can decide to form an investment club and start investing in different securities towards your future. You can also consider doing joint ventures. I was listening to this lady in Nigeria who is an investment practitioner. She's into private equity, and she was talking about how a number of women, young women in Nigeria, 40 in number, came together to buy high-end properties on the island in Nigeria. Those of us who are familiar with Nigeria know how expensive properties are on the island. And these are young ladies who have just started work. One person will not be able to do it alone, but 40 of them decided to come and pull their resources together and do some of these things. And these are high-end residential apartments, and they are earning money on it. So we are saying that you can do joint ventures, you can have investment clubs, and we also encourage you to have investment buddies where you have friends that you are doing all of these things together. So you're investing together. At the end of the month, the person comes to you, hey, Kofi, have you sent your money yet? Hey, I have something. No, I've sent my, Charlie, if the statement comes, my total amount will be more than yours. So you need to send yours. So you need that support system. You need somebody to constantly be on you for you to be able to do that. So these are some of the ways by which we can have some of these people deliberately being a support system to us. But we are saying that if you are going into a joint venture, we need to know that, ensure that you dot all your I's and you cross all your T's, do your due diligence, and ensure that you are dealing with a trusted person. Don't just jump into anything that you don't understand. So these are briefly 7 strategies that we can use when we want to create wealth. Okay, so now we know the strategies. We know that we need to track our income. We know that we need to live below our means in order to create some money. We know that we need to have multiple streams of income. We know that we need to collaborate with others to be able to do this. Now that we have discussed all of this and we know that we can do all of these things, the next thing that we need to look out for is, what are some of the things that we need to be investing towards? What are some of the important things that we need to be investing towards? And I have 3 things indicated here, but I'll add a 4th one to it. So the first one we are saying is that be deliberate and set goals so far as your investments are concerned. Don't lump all your investments into one. When you need money, then you dip your hands into it. Rather, separate it according to the various needs that you have. So what are some of the needs that generally we think people will require? We are saying that every individual needs to have an emergency fund. And in all my presentations, you will come across issues of emergency fund. This is because it's so dear to my heart. So we are saying that it is very important that you have an emergency fund, especially if you are self-employed or you are an employee. This is because of uncertainties. So we are saying that put something aside for use if the unforeseen happens. And what are some of these things that could happen? We all woke up one day and we saw something in our financial sector. A lot of companies went down, people lost their jobs. So what it means is that if you lose your job today, and you have an emergency fund, you will still be able to use that investment in your emergency fund to fund your short-term things until you find another job or until you find something else that you want to do. Then secondly, COVID has come to teach us a lot. So COVID has taught us a lot of lessons. And one of such lessons is the fact that nothing is assured. We woke up one day, heard of a virus far away in Wuhan, and we felt that it was never going to get close to us. But let's look at what happened in the year 2020. Nations came down. There was lockdown. Industries collapsed. Look at the aviation sector, the hospitality sector. People who were working there had to be laid off because of something which is an act of God, if I can put it that way. I mean, we didn't have, or even if it's an act of man somewhere, we all don't know exactly what caused it. But we woke up and we found ourselves in such a situation. What it means is that if you are not able to work because of something like that, if you have an emergency fund, you will be able to live on it until you are able to find your feet again. And the main reason why we are saying that you don't lump all your investments together is because if you have an emergency fund, there are some instruments that you can invest in, and there are some instruments that are also no-go areas so far as emergency funds or short-term investments are concerned. Another important thing that I want to talk about is the education of our children. And we are saying that every parent's concern is how they will be able to prepare the right future for their wards. And we all know that preparing the kids for the future is through education. So I mentioned earlier that people want their kids to go to Harvard, people want their kids to go to London School of Economics, people want their kids to go to Princeton, but it's about the fees. People want their kids to go to University of Ghana or probably to go to Ashesi, but it is about the money. People are not able to pay that money. So we are saying that so far as the education of your children is concerned, you have to be deliberate and put money aside towards that. Start early so that when the time comes, you will not be found wanting. so that when the time comes, you will not be chasing banks for loans. So that when that time comes, you will not be referring to an uncle as being wicked because you didn't plan for it. So we are saying that you need to be deliberate about it. Then finally, it is important that we also prepare towards our own retirement. When we talk of retirement, a lot of people will tell you, I mean, government has nicely put something together for all of us. We have SNICs, we have tier 2. So once I'm contributing, I don't have to worry. But recently, there was a publication by the Director General of SNICs, and it states that 80% of people who retire in Ghana live on 1,000 Ghana cedi and below. So let's ask ourselves, what can 1,000 Ghana cedi or less do for us? And don't forget, once you hit your retirement, that is the time that you have the need for a lot more medicals. So when you are on retirement, the key thing is not about a house. It's not about a car, although they are important, but the key thing is your health. So that is the time that your employee, yes, will not be there to be paying your medical bills for those of us who work with other people. The employers will not be there to pay that bill for you. I don't even want to go into the issue of the national health insurance here. So your health has to be your own responsibility. So you need to ensure that in addition to having SNIT and your tier 2, you also have an alternative investment account dedicated towards your retirement. Anybody who is able to do this deliberately for the long haul will retire comfortably. And at this point, I also want to tell the parents that your children are not your retirement accounts. Never ever have it at the back of your mind that you are taking care of your kids for them to come back and take care of you. This is because they will also be going through their own challenges. Look at the job markets. People complete schools and they're not able to find jobs. Sometimes we even have to go back to our parents to be taking money from them. So if you're a parent and you are thinking of having your child as your retirement account, what it means is that you will never be able to be comfortable ever. So it is very important that you get that sorted out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can just give me a minute to sort out something, I'll get back. Just a second, please. Okay, thank you. These are some of the hazards of working from home. I needed to attend to something quickly. So as I was saying, it is very important that we are deliberate about some of these things and then we prepare adequately for our retirement. And the last thing that I want to talk about is creation of a sinking fund. We all know that we can't say that because we are investing towards an emergency fund, towards our kids' education or our retirement account, life will have to come to a standstill. It doesn't mean that you can't take that vacation. It doesn't mean that you can't take your spouse or your children out. So we are saying that be deliberate about some of these things and create a sinking fund. And a sinking fund simply refers to a fund that you will use for your planned things. And the difference between a sinking fund and an emergency fund is that for emergency fund, you are investing towards uncertainties. But for sinking fund, you are investing towards specific things that you want to do. And this evening, I want to tell you that under no circumstance should you dip your hands into your emergency fund to fund your sinking fund project. So you are investing towards emergencies. You want to go to Dubai for vacation, then you go and take money from your emergency. That vacation is not an emergency. So you need to also ensure that you create a sinking fund for some of these purposes. I came across an interesting thing on social media, and I'm sure a number of you might have also seen it, where you see this old lady the wife, an old lady and the husband being pushed on a vacation. They've worked so hard all their lives, but they decided to forgo every enjoyment in their life, so that when they retire and they accumulate that money, they will be able to use their money to do some of these things. But interestingly, when they sat and they were being pushed around, they were asleep. They didn't see anything. All the places they visited, they were tired, they were asleep. So we are saying that we are not asking you to forgo forever some things. I always say that there are certain things that you can enjoy at certain stages of your life. So things that you can do in your youth, when you grow and you have the money, you may never have the opportunity to do it. So we are not saying that you should cut out totally hanging out with friends. We are not saying that you should not take vacation. All we are saying is that whatever you want to do, plan towards it. Let it be a plan, and then you invest towards that. Once you do that, you don't have a problem. So, and in addition to doing that, ensure that you have an emergency fund, you have a college education fund, and then you also have a retirement fund in addition, and you have a sinking fund that will help you to fund all the luxuries that you want to do in life. So now let's look at the kind of investments that we have available on our market. So we have taken a decision. We want to create an emergency fund. We want to do all the things that I have talked about. What are some of the investments that we can do? So I'll start. So this is the pyramid. I'm going to start from the bottom. So we're looking at treasury bills and treasury bonds. I'm sure we all know what treasury bills are. But for those of us who don't know, basically, if you buy treasury bills, what it means is that you are giving your money to government, or you are lending money to government in the short term, and government in return will pay you interest on your money. And this is one of the simplest form of investments that we can do. And it is what is mostly considered as a risk-free, because the possibility of government defaulting is very minimal, although we have seen it in other countries, but the possibility of that happening is very minimal or non-existent. So you can buy treasury bills. You can equally buy treasury bonds. Treasury bonds are also similar. You are still lending money to government, but the difference between treasury bills and treasury bond is the fact that this time around, instead of giving money in the short term, you are giving money to government in the long term, and you are paid interest. And most of the time, this interest is even paid on semi-annual basis. So you can do any of these investments, contact your bankers, contact your financial advisors. They will give you further details. Then there are also corporate bonds that you can invest in. Corporate bonds, in this case, you are not giving your money to government, but rather you are giving your money to other institutions, such as multinationals. So these multinationals take this money to fund their operations, and then they also pay you interest on it. But anytime you are going to do any of this investment, it is very important that you assess your risk level. So if you are going to deal with a multinational that is issuing a bond, the first and most important thing that you need to look out for is to understand their operations and their ability to pay you. And this is key. And this is what we call the default risk. So if you are dealing with an institution that does not have the ability to pay you back your money, then the institution will default, and you will not be able to access your money. And we have seen a few issues here and there about people unable to pay you money when you do investments with them. Then another very common form of investment is fixed deposits. And for fixed deposits, what it means is that you are giving your money to other financial institutions. And it is important for me to mention that this financial institution has to be a deposit-taking institution. And when we are talking about a deposit-taking institution, we are referring to institutions that are regulated by Bank of Ghana. And such institutions are banks, the commercial banks. We are talking about savings and loans companies and microfinance institutions. Under no circumstances should you do a fixed deposit with an institution that is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, because they are not mandated to do that. And again, if you are doing a fixed deposit, you need to assess the institution, that is the financial institution that you are dealing with, and see the risk level there. So most of the time, those of us who have done fixed deposits before, you realize that if you are doing a fixed deposit with a bank, the rate most of the time is lower than going to deal with a savings and loans or a microfinance. This is because most of the time, the commercial banks are huge. I mean, they have a capital of 400 million Ghana cedi on them. So what it means is that they are big and the default rate there is lower. So we need to be sure that we do this assessment. Then we also have commercial papers. That is, again, lending money to other corporate institutions in the short term. And you can do any of this, but it is very important that if you are doing any of this investment, you seek advice from a professional who has the expertise to do their due diligence on these companies. So if you're a doctor and you're an engineer, this is not your core area. So you will not have that ability to do some of this assessment. That is why we're saying that if you want to do any of this, talk to your financial advisor to assist you to do it. Then you can also buy shares, or what we call equities, on stock exchanges, regulated stock exchanges. So if you are buying shares of a company, what it means is that you are becoming a part owner of that company. So you can share in the success or the failure of the business or of that company. And you as an investor, if you buy shares on the exchange, there are two ways that you can make returns. And that is from the appreciation in the share prices and also from dividend. So if you are going to buy equities, it is very important to speak to a broker or to speak to an investment advisor before you take that decision. Because you don't buy shares and when you need money, you just go and sell the shares. You need to know the time that you need to enter the market and the time that you need to exit the market. Probably you buy the shares today, you need money in 3, 4, 5 months time, but it may not be the time that is right for you to exit. So when it comes to shares, the general rule is that you buy low and you sell high. But unfortunately, what we normally see is that people enter the market when prices are going up. That is when people want to buy shares. Then when prices are coming down, that is when people rush to sell their shares. But it is the other way around. Just take it that you are buying low and then you are selling high. And also when it comes to issues of investing in the stock market, we need to, as much as possible, take out issues of sentiment and emotions out of them before you can invest. So it is important you take your sentiment out, talk to a broker, talk to an investment advisor before you do it. Then we have so many other forms of complex investments that we term alternative investments, where you can either do a private equity or other forms of investments. But I wouldn't go too much into this. But if you have appetite to do any alternative investment, we will urge you to go and talk to someone who is knowledgeable or who is an expert in that field. Then I'll talk about one other form of investment, which is very dear to my heart because it is the simplest form of creating wealth. Why do I say it's the simplest way that you can create wealth? You remember I indicated that if you want to buy a treasury bond, you need to assess the ability of the company to pay you back. If you want to buy shares, you need to know when to enter the market. If you are buying treasury bills or bonds, you need to know the credit ratings of the country and all that. You need to understand the economy. You need to understand so many things. But just imagine the beauty of having all of these things done for you. I mean, who wouldn't love to have this? So mutual funds, with mutual funds, you are investing as a pool. So you have money coming from different investors, and that investment is put together, and there's a fund manager who takes these investment decisions all the things that I spoke about, the due diligence, and all the things that you need to assess an investment, the fund manager does that on your behalf. So all you need to do is to come in and they explain to you and you put your money into these funds and the rest of the things are done on your behalf. What else do we want if we don't want this? So let's look at some of the how mutual funds or collective investments work. So you have money coming from the investors. That money is passed on to a fund manager. The fund manager takes the investment decisions by investing in different securities and earns returns on it. And that returns is passed back to you, the investor. And what are some of the benefits of investing in mutual funds? Or why do I say that it is one of the means by which we can create wealth? Because we have people doing the work on our behalf. Number one, diversification. I'm sure we have all heard of the fact that don't put all your eggs in one basket because of the issue of risk. We are saying that you need to spread your wings around. But as an individual, you may not be able to do this. So this is where collaboration comes in. Money coming from different sources into a pool becomes a lot. So that money can be put in different investments, some short-term, some medium-term, and some long-term. What it means is that if one side is not doing well, the other side is expected to do well to cushion that for you. Then, apart from diversification, it is also a professionally managed fund. So you have a fund manager who is licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission, who will take care of your investments for you by ensuring that the right investment decisions backed by solid research are done for you. And mutual funds are highly regulated. So the fund manager is regulated, the fund itself is also regulated. There's so much security and transparency. This is because you are not working with just one service provider. So you have a fund manager who is taking your investment decisions for you. Then the money is not sitting with the fund manager. The money is sitting with a commercial bank known as the custodian bank. So the fund manager takes the decision and instructs the custodian bank to settle or to make payments. So there's so much transparency. You can walk into any fund manager's office and ask to inspect the documents of their mutual fund at any point in time. The law actually makes provision for this. Then you are also giving statements. Most people will give you statements on a monthly basis for you to track your investments. And you can also go for your statement anytime on demand. In this era of digitalization, the statements are even being brought to your doorsteps, where you are able to sit and access your statement from various apps that some of these investment management companies have. And finally, the reason why I think it is very important that we create wealth using mutual fund is because it is also affordable. It is affordable and very flexible. So there are mutual funds that you can buy as little as 5 cedis, as little as 10 cedis, and it is also flexible. You can top up at any time. You can add onto the money at any time. So ladies and gentlemen, it is very important that we look at mutual funds as a starting point when we want to create wealth. So I'll be concluding this section and then we can go to the Q&A session. So in conclusion, we are saying that it is very important that you monitor and you evaluate your progress. You need to understand the relationship between risk and returns. There are some returns that the moment they mention is you need to know that you are taking on a very high risk. For example, you walk to an institution to do a fixed deposit. Treasury bill rates are hovering around 12%, so they are between 12 and 13% currently. And the person says that I will give you 50%, I'll give you 60%. A friend of mine put it nicely. The moment they tell you that, he says that it means you have 50 or 60% chance of losing that money. Because you need to ask yourself, what are they putting your money into? Or what are they using your money for? To be able to generate money and be able to give you 60% out of it. Obviously, they should be getting something higher than that 60%. So it is very important that we understand that once we are being presented with returns that are high, then there's a possibility that the risk there is equally high. So it is very important that you diversify your portfolio. And I would like to conclude that in diversifying your portfolio, one key way of doing that is investing in mutual funds. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll pause at this point and then we can go into the Q&A session. So I believe that the moderator, if you permit me, if somebody has a question, the person can either raise their hand and then the moderator will call you to ask your question, or you put your question in the chat box and then we will address it. Thank you so much. So Sule, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, George, you have a question. Yes, you can go ahead to talk.
Hello, can you hear me, Sule?
Yes, we
Yes,
can all
George,
hear.
we can hear you.
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to commend Sule and his team in Dubia for this webinar. But I'll urge you to intensify your publicity next time so you can get more attendees.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay. I have two questions. The first one is, Gloria, in going in for a retirement fund, is it good to invest in equities? Yeah, considering the fact that our GSE was the fourth worst performing exchange in Africa as of December 2020. Is it still, will you still advise that you go for equities, or that's a long-term investment or a short-term one? And I also want to know, Gloria, does First Finance Company have an office in Kumasi? Thank you. I mean, your
Thank you
outfit.
so much. Yeah, thank you so much, George. Okay, so to take your first question, yes, it is true that when it comes to equities, the risk there is very high. And again, I agree that our exchange was the fourth worst performing exchange, and these are facts. But it depends on where you are so far as your retirement journey is concerned. So one key thing that will determine the kind of investments you have to take at each point in time is, number one, your age. So if you are somebody who is starting work and you are looking at investing, I'll still say that yes, our stock market was the worst performing last year, but the stock market has already done 36%. So it depends on where you are in your investment journey. If you are somebody who is 50 and above, we will not advise that you go to the stock market when you are putting something aside towards your investment. So the first thing I want you to consider is your age. Then secondly, again, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Even if it's a retirement account, it is very important that you diversify. And in diversifying, you spread your wings across the various asset classes in order to minimize your risk. And as you are growing and you are nearing your retirement, then you need to start ensuring that you are exiting all the risky investments and going towards the less risky one, because when you go on retirement, you will need the cash flow. So that's for the first one. And for the second one, First Finance is currently only in Accra. But with digitalization, we are able to reach customers across. So I will leave my number and my email address on in the chat column. You can reach out to me and then we can have more discussions. We have served customers in Kumasi, we have served customers in Takrady, we have served customers in Tamale. So in this day and age with digitalization, I mean, the opportunities are limitless. So we still will be able to do business with you, irrespective of whether we have a physical presence there or not. Thank you so much, George.
All right, thank you. George, do you have any follow-up questions or no?
No, not for now.
All right, thank you. We have some questions in the Q&A.
Yes. So we have a question from Kojo. He's asking if building for rent can be an investment. Yes, Kojo, building for rent, in this case, real estate is also an asset class that you can invest in. So it can be considered as an investment, but you need to understand what comes so far as real estate, that is building for rent, is concerned. So far as that is concerned, you need to understand everything about it, because we earlier said if you don't understand anything, don't put your money into it. So if you are building for rent, number one, you need to look at location and see if it is something that will bring back money. Also, you also need to look at the maintenance of the property and see if it is something that will give you good money. But again, we wouldn't advise that you put all your money to build for rent, because I mean, the property market equally also fluctuates. There are times that property prices are up, there are times that they are down. Although in our market, that is in Ghana, you don't see a lot of it, but elsewhere, there are times that, I mean, you see that the mortgage or the property market is totally low. So diversification is the key word there. In whatever asset class that you're choosing, ensure that you diversify in order to minimize your risk. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A by Carlos.
Okay, so if you can just read them out.
Okay. The first one is, there is a perception on the value of money that has been invested. People say the value of the amount might be the same, let's say after retirement. What do you think about that?
Okay, so Carlos, thank you so much. So there's something we call time value of money. Okay, so a CD worth today is not the same as a CD worth in 10 years or 20 years time. This is because, I mean, of things like inflation. So anytime you are doing an investment, you need to know that the value of whatever you have today will not be the same as the value of that amount in future, or in 10 years or in 20 years time. So it is important that you look at investment instruments that, at least in a worst case scenario, will give you returns that are above inflation at all times, so that you don't have a reduced purchasing power. That is why we are saying that move away from just saving to actually investing. And there are so many asset classes that we mentioned that you can diversify and invest in. But the key thing that I also discuss with a lot of people is, okay, we are saying that in 30 years time, you will get 3 million, but the value of 3 million in 30 years is not the same as the value today. Yes, that is true, but you are still better off investing and having that 3 million in 30 years time than somebody who will not have anything at that point. But the key thing is to ensure that you have returns that are always above inflation.
All right, thank you. The second one is, can you give us examples of reliable mutual funds?
Okay. So there are several mutual funds. I wouldn't want to specifically mention any company at this point, but I'll urge you to visit the Securities and Exchange Commission website, because this is an institution mandated by law to oversee mutual funds that are registered. So they have mutual funds that are in good standing. I'll urge you to look at it. But broadly, things that you need to look out for in investing in a mutual fund is, number one, to look at the person managing the fund. That is the institution that is managing the fund. And most people will say to see whether the institution has been in business for long, but I would want to even move away from that, because we have seen institutions that have been there for ages that have collapsed. So you need to look at the people behind the management of the fund. So if you want to choose a mutual fund, look at the people behind it, lift the veil and do some due diligence on them. Also, look at the the institution that is the custodian bank, because they are holding the assets. If anything happens, it is the custodian bank that has all the assets and the money. So deal with an institution that is credible as a service provider to that mutual fund. And also, mutual funds are registered entities, so they have a board. Look out for the board of some of these mutual funds, and then we can take a decision. The Securities and Exchange Commission does a stringent assessment on the members, so you can actually call their toll-free line and ask any question on any of the institutions that you want to invest in. But generally, these are some of the things that you need to look out for. But at this point, I'm unable to pinpoint a particular company because of issues of ethics. But ensure that you are dealing with a reputable fund manager. If you go to the SEC website, they have categorized the fund managers that are in good standing and those that are not in good standing. So you need to visit that and ensure that the fund that you want to invest in is being managed. And finally, there are different types of mutual funds. So you also need to ensure that the type of fund that you are choosing is the same as the kind of objective that you have. So if you have a short-term orientation or a short-term objective, you need to go for something like a money market fund, which equally invests in short-term instruments. So these are some of the things. But as I always say, consult an investment advisor. And this is at no fee at all. I'll leave my contact here. You can speak to me offline, and you can also contact any other investment advisor to assist you in choosing a mutual fund.
Thank you very much. Okay, so George has a question. George, you can go ahead, please.
I was about asking Gloria whether there's a distinction between a money market fund and a mutual fund, or they're basically the same thing. But for equities, I know they are long-term instruments that are traded on the stock exchange. But for mutual funds and money market fund, I don't know the distinction. Is it the same?
Okay, so mutual fund is the generic name. So the generic name is mutual fund. And under mutual fund, you can have different types of mutual funds. So you can have a money market mutual fund. Okay. You can have a fixed income mutual fund, a balanced mutual fund, or an equity mutual fund. So the name is just based on the kind of securities that the mutual fund is investing in. So for example, a money market mutual fund will invest in the kind of securities that are referred to in our market as money market instruments. In this case, they are instruments that have maturity of 0 up to 1 year. So mutual fund, anytime you hear mutual fund, it's a generic name. But under mutual fund, there are different types of mutual fund, ranging from money markets all the way to equities and other types. Thank you.
Okay, all right. And also, as you were saying that in going for this investment companies, we should do our background checks and all that. There's this company, though it's defunct, I'll not mention the name. I did all my background check, and so everything was okay. I saw the people behind the company, and they were doing well, but it still collapsed because I think they were some internal processes they were doing with the funds, with people's money didn't go down well. So it still went down. So how do we differentiate a Ponzi scheme from a proper investment company?
Okay, thank you so much, George. There are some key things that Ponzi schemes present, and the moment you see them, you need to even think twice. So things like, in most instances, Ponzi schemes give outrageous returns.
Okay.
And this is because they simply take money from new investors and use it to pay the old ones, and the cycle just continues. So it is one key thing that you need to look out for to see if this is a Ponzi scheme or not. Secondly, Ponzi schemes also don't have documentation. So you want to inspect their documentations, they don't have anything in place. So if you want to deal with an institution, number one, you want to know that it is registered under the law. You want to know that it has the required license that it's supposed to have from the regulator. And beyond that, not only having the license, but to ensure that the license is a current license. This is because these licenses are given for maximum period of 1 year, they expire and then they are renewed. So if an institution has a problem, then it is not possible that their things will be renewed for them. And these things are even not difficult for them to show you. They are actually supposed to be hung in most of the reception areas. In this era of digitalization, they could just send a soft copy to you wherever you are. So ensure that that institution is in good standing. They are licensed and the license is a current license. And finally, generally, Ponzi scheme investments are very difficult to explain. So if you are coming to do an investment and it's so difficult to explain to you. So for example, you want to know what a money market fund is, and it is very difficult for you to even understand or to explain what a money market fund is, or for the person to explain how the returns come about, then you need to think twice. So these are three things that I will use as a cautionary statement, that anytime you see these things, I'm not saying when you see these things, it means that the company is bad, but if you see these things, you need to go further and do some checks.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have more participants here. Kindly get interactive. If you have questions or comments, raise your hand, and then give you the opportunity to interact with Gloria. Okay, I think we don't have any further questions from participants. I would like to thank everybody for turning up, and a special thank you to Gloria for taking us through the webinar. I have learned some lessons, and I have jotted them down to guide me in planning my financial future. I believe everybody here has done the same. Let's let it serve as our guide going forward. Um, George did ask a question about Ponzi schemes and how to separate them from real investment schemes. I think we will have another webinar focused specifically on Ponzi schemes and how you can identify Ponzi schemes from real investment scheme registered by the regulatory authorities. So George, kindly look out for that webinar in the coming weeks and months. So
Okay,
I will allow
I'll do that.
Gloria to at least give her final remarks, and then we close the webinar.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sule. I would like to thank you, Sule, and your team, and all the participants for the opportunity to have this discussion with you. It is true that a lot of people have bent their fingers in the past through investments, but we can't say because of that we will stop investing. And for me, I see it as a farmer who has sown a crop in a particular season, and these crops were affected by so many pests, and the yield were no good. But that farmer cannot say that because of that, they will not plant the next planting season. But rather, in the next planting season, they will be more careful. They want to know why those things happened, and then they can put measures in place to correct it. So all I'm saying is that, yes, we understand that the market did not treat a lot of people fairly, but we are saying that this time around, we will not say we will not invest, but we will be careful in investing. I've shared my number and my email address in the chat column. You can get in touch with me, send me WhatsApp or send me an email, and I'll respond to it. I also have this investment tidbit that comes on Joy News. That's the TV, Joy News TV, and it's on Mondays Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 5:20. So you can look out for that for more information on investment. And it's also on Joy FM after the 6 a.m. news. So you can catch me there as well. Then I also have a blog called Gloria Empowers, where I write on investments. And also, I also have a YouTube channel that I run, also called Gloria Empowers. Look out for that also and subscribe to it. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar. And bye-bye.